Hello and welcome back to another episode of A Whole New Pod, the podcast all about Disney Channel original movies. Of course, I am your host, Lucas Melby.
And I'm Jacob Telejohn.
And we said hello, or maybe we should have said konnichiwa, because
Kawaii.
Lucas and Jacob last
returned
weekend
from Japan.
Yeah, we didn't go to Japan actually, but we went to the closest thing to Japan, which is an anime convention in Minnesota. We went to Anime Detour 2022. First time they've had it since 2019, so it was an exciting time, a good time. I ran a couple panels. Jacob helped out with one of them. Dustin also helped out with one of them.
Dustin
came
checked
along.
in.
We did a Anime Jeopardy style panel. I say we, but I kind of did the heavy lifting. Jacob just tried to run a PowerPoint. And then I also did an anime films panel, which I bring up here because maybe we got some new listeners this week. So if you're a new listener of the two people that maybe checked out the podcast after going to those panels,
welcome.
Hello.
This is a safe space.
We're trying to be professional here. This is our desperate attempt at trying to do the casual cold open that all the cool podcasts do.
We don't normally do this. Well, sometimes we
Well,
do.
we always try and fail.
Sometimes it's goofier.
A lot of the time.
Sometimes it's more goofier.
Yeah, if I can think of a song to sing or a song to parody, and then Jacob will be getting in some quick draft picks, fantasy drafts for the day because he has a gambling problem.
I'm an addict.
But you know what I'm addicted to? Disney Channel original movies.
Is that true?
No, it's not. Somehow I'm able to put up with not listening or watching one at intervals of at least every 2 weeks. I can survive for at least 2 weeks without a Disney Channel original movie. I could actually maybe even test it, see if I could go longer without a Disney Channel original movie. But I gave in to my urges to watch Dadnapped today. From 2009, Dadnapped, the movie that dared to ask, what if a dad was kidnapped? As I wish the Taken series went in that route. Well, one time Liam Neeson was the one who was kidnapped and taken, and then his daughter and wife had to rescue him. But nope, we had Dadnapped. I dare to question, why does this movie exist? This is a weird Disney Channel original movie.
But I'm glad it does. I want to say I'm glad it does because I didn't know what I was getting into. I definitely have not seen this before.
Yeah, I didn't look up anything ahead of time.
I've seen everybody else in the movie before.
Yeah, we'll get to, as we get into further, there's lots, as not a Disney Channel fan myself, I'm a begrudging Disney Channel original movie fan. I didn't know a lot of these people, but Jacob was left and right going,
that guy, that girl.
But this is the first movie, 2009, and off to a weird start because the last couple of years we've had lots of sequels or at the very least big kind of tentpole or would go on to be tentpole franchises for Disney Channel like Camp Rock, but we had Cheetah Girls, Camp Rock, High School Musical. We're getting through all of that to now Dadnapped?
Yeah, Papa Nap.
Did you have something you wanted to...
I just realized who the police officer was from.
And?
He's from Double Teamed. He's the coach in that movie. With the two sister girls.
He was the basketball coach?
Yeah. I didn't look that up, but as soon as I saw him, All
right, well, check that off the list. The biggest star of this movie.
There's a lot of people that appear in, whether they're DCOMs or just shows. There's a lot of familiar faces.
So to not hold you in too much suspense, let's just get into it.
Yes.
We've met our a couple minute quota of idle chit chat, so now let's get into the movie. And we get a pretty quick, immediate needle drop. We're getting a song called Hero and Me by one Emily Osment. So give us the rundown on Emily.
So Emily, you will know as Lily from
Hannah Montana.
She's the best friend in that. She is also the sister of Haley Joel Osment, who is,
most well known as voicing Sora in the Kingdom Hearts series.
Haley Joel is?
Yes. Also, yes, he's a Sixth Sense kid or whatever.
I see dead people, yeah. So they're like a power sibling thing. Power siblings.
I don't know if that's either a thing you should say, but B, I don't even think they would qualify as being a power sibling, because what has she gone on to do? Haley Joel ups and downs of some stuff he's been doing, but for the most part,
but we should say that Emily Osment is still doing some stuff. We kind of
well, so is Haley Joel.
Okay, that's fair, but he's not in this movie, so I didn't look into
Haley Joel's
career.
bigger. He's a bigger deal than Emily. That's what I was saying.
Correct.
That's the power of the Kingdom Hearts
Emily
fandom.
is in a recent Netflix show that's running right now.
Okay, well, that's
called Pretty Smart.
Pretty smart.
Yeah.
Well, this movie ain't pretty and it ain't smart.
But it's fun.
So we're getting this song from her. We also will hear it later on in the movie.
Yes.
This movie maybe is trying to see... we see lots of faces from Disney Channel shows.
Lots of faces.
None of them are like the most well-known from the thing they're in. Obviously, we're not getting Miley Cyrus showing up here. We're getting Emily Osment. So I don't know if this was trying like a push to get these people, kickstart their careers to lead to something bigger, that they would get people to care about them more. Yeah. If this was just something contractual where like, hey, you're going to be in this TV show and we'll also have you be in a movie. Oh, we have to put all these people in movies now and they all suck. Let's just put every single person in Dadnapped.
Should I run through some of the cast members really quick?
We'll do it as we get to them. But we're getting this song. Maybe the only song she recorded. I don't know.
Yeah,
I definitely don't think she probably had a full album.
No, probably not.
We're getting some...
But that was definitely a thing Disney liked to do. Their stars was have them sing music.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've had Allie and AJ, Corbin Blue. Yeah. As the song's playing... Well, I don't know if he really had stuff beyond High School Musical. I think he was like too big to be locked down to like a Disney music contract or something. We're getting some pan-over shots establishing, it's her and her family, it's her dad. Oh, there's this book. Ooh, Trip Zoom. What's that all about? Quickly, we'll learn her father is a famous author who writes a series of books about Trip Zoom.
Who's like maybe a prankster, James Bond
I thought
thing.
Our friend Sean would definitely... Was it Alex Rider? There was some series of books that was kind of... I think we were a little too old for them, but our friend really liked them in like high school. Not to put him on blast or anything. Some kind of teenage super spies and a real Agent Cody Banks, if you will.
Oh, there we go.
But as the movie goes along more, it's a little less clear what this kid or guy actually does, because it seems to be more that he's doing weird pranks or weird MacGyver kind of inventions things. His name is Trip Zoom, though.
Yes. Who is only a character. He has a face, but he's
it's weird because I think we actually see in books and like on covers, there's illustrations of him. Yeah. But then there's also full like cutouts of him.
Yes.
Where he's a real looking person, and I only thought of this because confusing. Of the
like there must be a movie out there in the universe of Trip Zoom. I would think.
Yeah, with the way people are losing their minds, it's treated as sort of like a Harry Potter fandom.
Yeah,
almost
very
thing.
much so. Trekkies.
But I only think of is it the Lost City, the new Sandra Bullock Channing Tatum movie, where Channing Tatum is like the cover model for her series of books, but people associated him with the character. I thought it was something similar with Trip Zoom here.
Okay.
But Jacob was very disappointed that we never met the real Trip Zoom.
No,
because throughout this movie, we'll see that Melissa, Emily Osment's character, hallucinates and talks to Trip Zoom.
So yes, it would have been fun to me, like later on they end up at this like fan convention, right? So like it would have been fun like if he was just like there signing autographs, or something, like she talks to him or something, like I don't know.
But we're already getting a picture of her potentially unstable mental state because she's looking at a family picture and she sees Trip Zoom in the picture with her family, but then he's gone.
He's always disappearing in this.
And then we just have one weird establishing scene where it's like she does go to school. We have to have her go to school, but her classroom, it's not typical desks facing forward. It's a bunch of circular tables, and kids are just spread out across these tables.
And I believe that the teacher in that classroom was her actual father. If his name was Mr. Walsh, I was looking at the cast. And Eugene Osment is one of the cast as Mr. Walsh.
Interesting. So yeah, he didn't really look like a... He looked like a shoddy guy. But this scene is mostly to build anticipation or show the anticipation that's building for the new Trip Zoom book, because a kid in high school, for whatever reason, is doing a book report on the new Trip Zoom book. But how? It's not out yet. Oh. Well, he knows he's got a person on the inside like Jacob Telejohn that works at a printing press that knows about this book, and he got an early copy. So then we get probably the most fun scene of the movie where he's doing his book report, and then we're getting a visual recreation of the plot of the book that's like an action movie.
That was fun.
It's got some nice lighting. Some might refer to it as the bisexual lighting style, potentially. It's a thing, Jacob. Look it up.
I have not heard of that before.
But we're seeing Trip Zoom, and this is where it does feel much more he's an action hero spy type.
Yeah.
No slime shows up here. Yeah. That'll make more sense later on.
Later on. There's a lot of weird little things the fandom has, whether it be towards like slime and grape juice and floss.
Mostly slime.
But like they never say like slime him. It's always like floss, or grape juice. It's very strange.
And confusing. To be fair, Jacob and I maybe didn't pay the closest attention to all of this movie because I was trying to figure out today's Wordle during some of it and maybe missed some important plot stuff. This that ends, and it's just Melissa being like, oh my god, I'm so tired of everybody being obsessed with my dad. Yes. She looks out the window, and there's like a poster promoting this book coming out, and she talks to the Trip Zoom. The Trip Zoom picture talks back to her.
Did you mention the guy jumping off the top of the building?
I
like
didn't.
A weird
there's some
closed paraglider
bad
thing.
Effects in the action sequence,
I was getting I was getting excited for
he's losing his breath.
Yeah, I don't know. It was kind of fun.
I was like, okay, this is going in an interesting direction.
But it looked goofy. It looked kind of cheap. I don't know. But
then it never went in that direction again. At home, she sees this book is so anticipated. There's a commercial also for this book. And in the commercial, there's this like Trip Zoom model or whoever you want to call him. And she's talking to him again, and he's talking back to her. This is notable because during the commercial, I think they refer to the fans of Trip Zoom as Zoomers, which there probably were actual Zoomers. This movie came out in 2009.
Zoomers.
I think the cutoff for Zoomers is maybe like starting 98 or 96 or so. So some people watching this and even know that they were Zoomers the whole time. Her mom, this is the only scene I think her mom's basically in. She comes in and is like, I know it's tough that dad's always gone because he's so famous, but you got that camping trip coming up with them. Gotta get excited for that, right? True. It definitely will happen. Nothing will get in the way of that. So then she's off on this trip with her dad. They leave in this convertible with the Trip Zoom like cardboard cutout in the background.
Always there, and she's always talking to her.
Still, probably should have tipped her off that something was going to maybe be going on because they arrive at a town, I think it's called Mercury, that is hosting ZoomCon.
Yes.
And they're going to this rundown hotel, and Melissa is not happy. There's a bunch of weirdos. It's basically, we were just there. We were just at ZoomCon last weekend. People cosplaying as different
characters,
Trip Zoom characters.
I would assume villains.
I guess I don't know.
Villains. Because they're always trying to cause
love the bad guys.
Havoc, like they're sliming people.
Yeah, they meet the manager of the hotel, whose name is Merv. The hotel is called the Merc Hotel, though.
And Merv is played by Jason Earls, who is Hannah Montana's brother. He also looks a lot older than he did on that show. Well, that's because he was like in his 30s at the time, and like in Hannah Montana, he was playing like a 18-year-old, but he was like 35 or something.
In Hannah Montana, he's probably wardrobed and made up to look younger. Where they're just treating him as his actual age,
because he's
but he still has
now.
A younger quality about him. You know, I call it whether it's accurate or not, the Andy Milonakis disorder. So, but yeah, he's getting like eggs thrown at him. Not really clear what that's all about.
Jackson Stewart.
Thank you. Yes. But this hotel, it's a dump. They go to the presidential suite. That's where they get to stay, but it's also a dump. And as they're moving around the hotel, there starts to be some suspicious activity going on because there's various people we're seeing making like hushed phone calls or like walkie-talkie chatter, be like, oh, he's here, follow him.
And those two that we see didn't recognize it right away, but one of them is played by Phil Lewis, who is Mr. Mosby.
We're getting ahead of ourselves because I'm talking about the fanboys here. Those are making the phone calls.
Okay.
So I think you said one of them was from Wizards of Waverly Place.
Yes, he's like the main character.
So
I don't know what
this group is. Wheeze is the leader and older brother of Andre, who you said was also from Hannah Montana.
Yes,
he's the
younger
dweeby kid,
twerpy kid in that. Moises Arias.
And then there is Sheldon, who is kind of their goofy.
He was Rico in Hannah Montana.
Third wheel.
Yeah. So you have 3 Hannah Montana characters in this movie. You have a Sweet Life of Zack and Cody character. You have a Wizards of Waverly Place character.
And I don't know any of it.
You have the one from Double Teamed. Like, there's just, I don't know. It's very interesting, the wide range of casts you have.
So we have these kids that seem to be doing something weird. And then we have Mr. Mosby, who in this is named Maurice, I think. And his friend, Maurice. Or they call each other brothers sometimes, Skunk, who asks for a signed copy of a book from the dad. He signs off on it, and then Maurice is like, we're not here for signed copies, we're here for something else. What are they there for? There's lots of mystery swirling around here.
Lots.
As they're checking in to their room, the dad realizes that, hey, maybe he's not a bad business dad necessarily, but he's a bad writer dad, where he's not putting his daughter first. And he says, all right, I'm going to go down. I got to pick this contest winner. I'll pick that, then we'll head out, and I don't know if they've already stayed a night at this point, but it's like, then we'll check out, and then we'll go to the camping trip.
Just when she calls her mother?
I don't know. I definitely didn't make note of that. That didn't matter.
She calls her mother somewhere around this time, and you know, like her mom's asking her, oh, you know, how is he having fun? And she's like, yeah, just open air, fresh air. And then like you hear like a car honking. She's like, oh no. And it's like, yeah, he did it again.
So as he's picking this contest winner, Melissa's just hanging around and has a kind of meet cute with Wheeze. I didn't fully pay attention to this. I think he says something about word wham, which is
they're just kind of like calling each other names.
It's a game like that she had mentioned earlier that I think she wanted to play with her dad or something. Okay. We see him playing it at one point, but then we never really hear about it again. I thought it was going to play into some kind of like mystery thing.
There's like some banter here between them. He recognizes or acknowledges some kind of lip gloss she has. He really likes the smell of it, and that comes into play later a little bit.
It's a perfect movie. Everything's set up and paid off.
Yeah.
But I thought Word Wham was a funny name, and I thought it was going to be more of like a number wang. But nope, it wasn't.
Or a Wang Chung, if you will.
And definitely not. But then the dad's doing this contest, and he's like, I'm never leaving you guys. I'm here forever. And
as he's looking at her, staring her down, I'm here.
Melissa's just like, what the fuck, man? And I don't know if it's like what the contest criteria was, whether it was a trivia contest or something, but it seems to be a guy who is played by the jock character from Napoleon Dynamite.
Yes, Bobby O.
Who
Trevor Snar is this Bobby O dude that comes down like Tom Cruise.
Yeah, in Mission Impossible, hanging down.
Yes.
And it wasn't a hallucination. But he's got this bomb he's trying to disarm, but then he puts a hairbrush in it, and then it explodes, and the hairbrush
shoots it around the room.
Cartoon bounces off a bunch of things, hits a giant watermelon that's there for some reason.
Explodes everywhere.
And then like people clap or whatever. I'm like, what the fuck is going on in this movie?
It was pretty wild start.
And then finally, some semblance of plot starts to happen. We're getting closer to the napping. The dad, I mean, I wish I was maybe napping during this, but we're getting to the kidnapping of the dad nap.
Yes.
And the kids, we see Sheldon is on the roof, and he's got some contraption that he's feeding onions into that then is like juicing them and taking the gas from them to pipe it into the room to make everybody cry and then need to leave.
So the whole point of this competition was to impress the father into like who's the biggest zoomer. And this was their way of doing it because the thing that they're using is something that one of the villains uses in one of the books.
Yeah.
So they're trying to, make their big impression on, like, we're the biggest zoomers, which is what leads to...
Yeah, but right now with this onion gas going out, it's just chaos ensues. Everybody's running around. The dad gets pulled aside by the little kid, Andre, who's got, like, nose plugs and stuff. He's like, here, I'll show you what's going on. Takes him aside. Meanwhile, as so happens so often in this movie, Melissa's just kind of wandering around and hallucinating and talking to Trip Zoom.
Yeah.
There are so many scenes like that.
She's outside. She leaves the room before all this onion stuff happens because she's just, I don't know, mad at her dad. So she's outside, and then she starts to see everybody run from, inside. And then she's worried about Papa. She's like, oh, Dad. And then she runs up there, and that's when she, I think, runs into the Jason Earls character.
Something like that.
Yeah, the Merv guy.
And we should have been a little more clear that she is actually talking to Trip Zoom, because when her mom shows up earlier, she says, who were you talking to? And she said, like, oh, nobody. But she was talking to Trip Zoom. So she very likely is schizophrenic, or she's hallucinating something.
Yes.
The group of teens, Wheeze, Sheldon, and Andre, show the dad the tearjerker, which is, as Jacob was saying, some kind of invention from the books. And he's like, oh, wow, that's really impressive. All right, see ya. But then, nope, they somehow, as children, manhandle this adult man, throw him into their van that says Trip Zoom on the side. And then, yes, we see the first appearance of dental floss.
And they're tying him up in like a chair, and they're like, floss.
Spin him around all goofy like. Yeah. And like, this is totally normal. I'm definitely fully on board and totally with this movie. So then they drive off with him in the back of this van, and Melissa shows up and it's like, hey, where's my dad? She sees that there was a security camera, so she talks to Merv, the manager.
And surprisingly,
the footage.
Now in hindsight, I guess he really is surprised that this is happening, because it's not really the plan.
That's a major spoiler.
He shows her the video.
So yeah, she sees that he was actually dadnapped. So then she calls the cops. And the cops, despite that they actually saw, he's like, oh, we've been getting lots of calls of like spy stuff happening at the hotel.
So this is the character I was talking about. This is Joey Miyashima, who is
definitely isn't worth.
If you're a listener to the pod, you remember Double Teamed, the two.
I don't remember this guy.
Players.
He's an Asian man. I don't remember him being their coach.
This is their head coach. I'm just trying to connect all the dots of how many characters and
I don't think when people talk about this movie being a big Disney Channel crossover, they're including the guy who had maybe like 5 minutes of screen time in Double Teamed. But the joke is that the cops basically only they're like model builders. He's got like a helicopter model, and he's like dusting off stuff, and he's like, kidnapping? That doesn't sound likely. In 48 hours, you can file a missing persons report, but don't call me again. But hey, fund the police, right? Melissa says, man, what kind of system is this? And I'm like, fight the system,
fight the
girl.
Power. Fight the power that be.
The kidnappers, who here I'm referring to as the Wheeze, Sheldon, and Andre, who I'll sometimes call the fanboys because of all the stuff they're doing. They're kind of just like crazy fanboys showing off their knowledge and fandom to the author dad, which I thought was kind of an interesting angle. This movie would have still been at least a few years before the really starting and continuing rise of toxic fandoms online, which they're still going. They're still here. But these guys are being followed by two other guys, Maurice and Skunk.
Mr. Mosby and brother.
Who, I guess in the movie's credit, I was like, what the fuck is going on? Why are they following them?
We didn't know anything.
And I kind of started to get some inklings. I'm like, well, this would only make sense if they also wanted to kidnap him.
Yes.
But like with knowing the premise of the movie, with everything they were doing before, I'm like, oh, well, they're there to kidnap him. And then the fanboys aren't related to them. So I'm like, what is going on?
It was confusing.
I mean, it was confusing, but designed to be, I guess.
Going into the movie knowing like, the kidnap's going to happen. Been a little wrench, a little twist.
But as this is playing out, I'm like, this can't carry a whole fucking movie.
And it did.
Even if it's only 85 minutes.
It does.
And it didn't, because then something else happens. But even then, it's like, this still feels like hardly a movie.
I loved it. It was not a good movie. It was a goofy, fun movie.
My next note is Melissa continues to wander around and be schizophrenic.
Yeah, that you're not wrong.
She decides to call her dad, and the fanboys answer the phone.
They let him answer because he's like, well, in one of my books, I allow the villain his one last phone call.
So they kind of answer, but then let him talk. She recognizes Wheeze's voice because she talked to him earlier, and she calls him the word wham guy or whatever.
Lip gloss girl, I didn't know you were his daughter.
But she's kind of just ignoring the fact that her dad was kidnapped because she thinks, which is kind of weird that she called the cops then, because she's kind of playing off. She thinks her dad's. She's like, Dad, you always do this. He's like, what are you talking about? I didn't do this on purpose. Him. So it's like,
kidnapping.
Does she think he's just doing something silly with his fans, or does she think that he was actually kidnapped?
That's a good question. We don't know.
But at the end of the call, she hears Sheldon in the background say like, oh, you want pine mist or ocean spray or whatever. So she puts it together and asks Merv, hey, is there a car wash in town? So she immediately goes there with Merv.
But before they hang up on her, they all three start chanting floss, floss, floss. And this is the first time we heard it mentioned in the movie.
I guess I forgot that.
And it was only a sign of things to come.
The Zoomers love the floss. So Merv drives up. I thought it was in the dad's convertible, but then at one point Merv says my car. So I don't know if Merv also has a convertible.
They both have the same car. It's a really nice car though. It's like, I don't know, it's like an old school red thing.
It's okay.
Looked nice.
So they roll up to the car wash and the fanboys are still there, but Melissa and Merv don't see them. And then there's some shenanigans where they sneak up while they're not by their car and somehow like put it in neutral, but it seems to move forward into the car wash in a way that doesn't make sense for it to just be in neutral. But it gets fed into the car wash. They're can't stop
it. She's in the driver's seat.
They go through the car wash with the hood down. Oh my God,
bad.
it's so silly. It's filled with soapy water.
Like, I mean, like when we say it's filled, like it's covered. You can't even see the car. Like there's suds everywhere. The dude's drowning in soap.
It's so funny.
It was
but it wasn't. And then the fanboys drive off, but they accidentally dropped a library book outside of their van.
Which is past due.
Yes, it's for how easy to do word wham or whatever, and it's due that day.
Yeah.
Cut to them inside of the vehicle, showing some trip zoom book to the dad, and the dad sees that it's a library book, and he's like, hey, this is due today, and they're like, oh my God, we gotta go to the library right now. Late fees are terrifying. So they go to the library.
Yes.
She and Merv go to the library, and those two other guys also follow them to the library.
Everybody's to the library.
Jacob referenced while we were watching it, don't look under the bed because she's got an invisible friend here. Yeah. They go to the library and don't look under the bed too.
That's true. That happens.
I don't know why I brought that up.
It's we're connecting webs, man. We're just connecting.
So Melissa goes inside of the library. She sees her dad. Who I guess has made a deal with the fanboys. They're like, hey, if you show us how to do this trap, then you can go, or something like that. And he makes a trap inside of a book and then puts it on the shelf and says, we'll just wait till a librarian comes to put the book away or something. Again, I don't know what Trip Zoom's deal is. Is he a cool secret spy, or is he just like a high school prankster?
It is very confusing.
Whatever the case is, Melissa goes, retrieves the book, opens it, and she gets a face full of like blue toothpaste slime or something.
Weird.
And then she sees her dad
floss.
And the flan boys, the floss
what if that's
boys.
What it is? What if they're all shooting toothpaste? That would make sense. He's like,
but then they also say like eat grape juice at one point or something. I think some of it could be like it looks like the consistency of toothpaste at times. But she sees the dad with the fanboys.
Trip Zoom is like a big hygienist. It's like propaganda from the toothpaste companies.
Jacob hates brushing his teeth. I was at a convention with him this weekend. I know. TMI. But the dad's like high-fiving the fanboys in the corner, and then they come out and he introduces them to Melissa, and they're like, these guys are real Zoomers here.
Yeah.
And she's like, I hate you, Dad.
Floss.
So then I think they just leave. Melissa's mad. The dad's following her out of the library, but then police!
But not the police.
These guys look familiar, and the dad thinks they look familiar because it's Maurice and Skunk.
Like he calls them out. He's like, "Hey, you're not police. You're fake. You're from the convention. You were that freak."
Yeah, they're like holding him up with like a stapler, and then they're about to handcuff him.
He's like, "Oh, look at the uniforms. Oh, what is this?" And I think he's pretending to be like a taser, like a baton. He's like, "Yeah, but what is this?"
I don't know what there's some stuff in this movie where I'm like, I don't know what they were going for, but it could be interpreted as like. Very
brutality.
Not what you maybe want in a Disney Channel movie. But they're about to handcuff the dad, but then Melissa handcuffs herself to the dad.
Yes.
And she's like, you ain't getting away with me. And then Skunk's like, but that was supposed to be
my wrist.
So then they take them both. So it's not really Dadnapped, as Jacob said. It's dad and daughter napped.
Yeah, dad and daughter napped.
That's a much better title.
Papa nap.
So they get pulled into their van, which is like they stole a uniform cleaner van or something.
Yeah.
Like an Aramark, maybe, if you will.
I can't remember what the name on it was.
Yeah, I don't know. But then they go drive off, but then the fanboys see this happen, and they're like, what the fuck is going on here? Did they get dadnapped?
Yeah.
That's a criminal offense. So they try to call the cops, and then the cops say, hey, didn't you already report a dadnapping today? And it's like, well, we were actually the dadnappers then with dental floss. Yeah, it was pretty cool. And then the cop's like, hey, we're serious here at the police. Stop calling us. And then hangs up and messes around with his model or whatever.
Yeah.
It's very funny. This very famous actor, apparently, according to Jacob, I don't think he shows up later in the movie. I think he's in this movie also for less than 5 minutes. Maybe more like
Joy
2
Miyoshima.
minutes. Yeah, Johnny Tsunami. So then I think they just get taken to their lair, which is in a drive-in movie theater, an abandoned drive-in, I think, which is kind of a cool location.
Yeah.
They have one scene where they're watching a movie, the villains. I don't know. It's weird. But then they're like kind of nice to them. And we go into their house or their lair, and it's got a bunch of Trip Zoom stuff on the walls. So they're like super fans too?
Yes. But they're older, much older.
And the fanboys follow them to the location, and then they have some kind of, I don't know, MacGyvered together bug that it's like a cup. Is it like cup tied to like another cup? But then they like are listening through it to them. I don't know. They're somehow hearing the conversation, I think, inside. It has a kind of unique premise where I thought at first, I think it would have been much cooler because it would have gotten more into that toxic fandom sort of thing, where more like Misery, you screwed up this book. You need to fix this book you made about Trip Zoom, or here's my idea for a Trip Zoom book. Now you have to write the book I want you to make. Mm-hmm. Instead, Skunk has written a manuscript that is terrible, and they want the dad to fix it and make it a better book so they can publish it and make a lot of money. Still kind of a unique premise, but not nearly as interesting as it could have been.
Yeah.
And they don't break his legs or anything like
that. No, they missed that. They could have did that, but they didn't.
They have a little father-daughter moment where Melissa is with her dad there and cries and says that her dad cares more about Trip Zoom than her. And the dad, for whatever reason, holds his reveal about how much he cares about his daughter until like 30 minutes later into the movie because it's a Disney Channel movie.
Yes.
The fanboys, having already tried to call the cops, then they have lights and a speaker or something, and they pretend they're the cops. Everybody's impersonating a police officer in this movie. It's hey, let's be cops. Let's be cops? Isn't that the name of a movie? Nobody remembers. Anyways, the bad guys, Maurice and Skunk, are like, oh shit, it's the 5-0. So they pull Dad and Melissa into their van and then drive off. And as they're now driving, they drive for like the next 20 minutes of the movie.
Yeah,
and they're still making him try to write the book in the back of the van.
Like they're getting thrashed around in the back, like really, like just like throwing around and like just all over the place. It was a wild.
So yeah, they're just driving off into some random place in the country, and then the fanboys are following them, and they only realize they're being tailed because they hit something in the road. And then Maurice, I don't know, his mirrors are adjusted or something, but then he sees them behind him.
Yes.
And then ensues the one of the most boring, poorly edited together car chases where there's just too many constant cuts, never any wide shots of the actual vehicles, of Skunk just throwing stuff outside the back of the van to try to hit the other van.
Yeah.
And then the van eventually, the fanboys van crashes and somehow its front wheel gets half buried into the ground. And it's not like they went into mud or something.
No,
it's just like their wheels stuck in the ground.
It's like solid ground. And then they abandon their vehicle.
Yeah, they never get it back.
I mean, it's the Tripmobile. It's like all decked out. It's got all their goodies in it. And yeah, they just...
So the kidnappers, the real dadnappers, drive off, and then the fanboys are just like, I guess we walk from here.
We hitchhike from here, yeah.
No, they don't even hitchhike quite yet. They gotta walk slowly, but into the exact place they need to go.
Yes.
They're continuing to give some tips to Skunk. Melissa is starting to give some too, and her dad have a little bit of bonding to be like, oh, that is a good literary idea, and... I don't know. That was kind of a cute thing, I guess.
She's like, oh, I gotta go to the bathroom. You fed me 10-year-old hot dogs.
Yeah, that was the other thing where I'm like, is that how you want me to interpret it? That she has nasty diarrhea, that she needs to use this bathroom? So yeah, they go to a gas station because they run out of gas because they've been driving for like 10 to 15 minutes of this movie.
Which is like hours because it takes other people a whole night to get to their destination.
So she's allowed to go into the bathroom. She puts on one of the uniform coats from the van, which almost
she was really
doesn't matter. But it's treated as like, oh, she's doing it to be sneaky. She says, I'm cold. But we'll explain. But she goes into the bathroom.
Yes.
Hallucinates and talks to Trip again.
The creepy guy is like listening to her, like saying like, hurry up. I mean, he's got like his ear to the door, and she's like, "Oh, the 10-year-old hot dogs."
Yeah, I can't take my explosive diarrhea.
Can you back away from the door? I can't do my thing.
So in the bathroom, she's looking in the mirror and has all these scenes always happen with like Dutch angles to like imply that something creepy's going on.
Yeah.
As she's talking to then Trip Zoom, she hallucinates, and he's like, "Hey, don't you realize that if I'm in you, then, like, you know everything I know," or something.
Yes.
And that prompts her to be like, oh, I thought she was going to do some cool MacGyver shit, but nope, she pulls out a book that she had on her Trip Zoom, pulls out a page.
Also, I was going to say, where did this book come from?
Does something with her watermelon lip gloss and leaves that in the bathroom.
She highlights presidential.
Well, yeah, I know what she does. I'm saying at this point, we don't know what she's doing.
Well, you can see it says presidential.
Oh, I wasn't sure if we didn't see that until somebody else finds it later on.
Yes.
How would she let somebody know to find it? Well, she walks out of the bathroom
with toilet paper
stuck to her shoe.
Yes.
And then leaves that. And then the coat she was wearing on the ground.
She takes her coat off, and he's like, what's up? And she's like, no, I'm too hot. And she drops it on the ground. He doesn't pick it up. He just loads her back up in the van, and they leave.
I guess is the signal that maybe the fanboys knew that it was a uniform van or something that they were in.
I don't know about that. They just saw the coat, but then they saw the toilet paper to the door, and they're like,
yeah, so it's like, what was the big deal about her wearing the coat?
Well, maybe it weighted down the toilet paper so it didn't blow around in the wind, the desert wind.
It's pretty dumb. But they drive off, and as they're driving away, she says, hey, my dad can't ride in the back of a van. And the dad's like, nope, I'm totally fine. Don't kill me. Even though we're not supposed to be like, I don't know if we're supposed to really see these guys as that threatening, because they don't even have guns. They just have staplers.
Yes.
But they say, well, maybe go back to the hotel. At least he can use a computer there. And they're like, okay, yeah, that is a good idea. Oh, there's also a very funny moment. My favorite moment of the movie was where Skunk's like, oh, I got you some beef jerky from the gas station. And we see the dad eating a Slim Jim, or a legally distinct Slim Jim. And he's like, oh, this is terrible. This is awful.
This is not what I wanted.
That got my biggest laugh of the movie.
It's good to laugh.
It's fun to have fun.
It's fun to have fun.
And then the fanboys just happen to go to the exact same gas station as they're slowly walking there.
And they see the coat. They see the teepee.
And they follow into the bathroom to find the page where presidential is circled.
Yep.
And they know it's her because of the watermelon lip gloss smell coming off of it.
He sniffs it. And he's like, oh, I know
he says, looks like meat's back on the menu.
Ooh. Bruce.
I don't know.
Brucey. You know the shark in Jaws was named Bruce?
That was a Lord of the Rings reference.
Oh.
The Urukai go, look like meat's back on the menu, boys. And then they fight the orcs. But the question is, do they have menus in Middle-earth? How do the Urukai know what menus are?
That's a good question.
Anyways, they see that the presidential circled. What could it mean? Sheldon somehow thinks it's that they're going to a pickle farm or something.
He goes down like a weird rabbit hole of trying to connect the dots.
But as big of a leap of logic to get to a pickle farm,
Rico or
Andre says, oh, they're staying at the presidential suite at the hotel.
Yes.
So then they're like, oh, well, we got to go to the hotel. So this all hinges on that the fanboys had to go to this gas station and had to be able to put together that it's the presidential suite, but also that Melissa had to convince the kidnappers to take them back to the hotel.
Yes.
Like, this is treated as some master plan on the caliber of Trip Zoom, but it easily could have gone wrong.
No, but I'm assuming they're all in the middle of nowhere. There's just the one road they got to follow, so inevitably they made it to this gas station. And now this is when they start to hitchhike.
Yes. But it's a wide. They're very far away from the kidnappers, I guess.
They're like 10 hours. They're like 10 hours behind.
Because we see them get back, the kidnappers and Melissa and Dad, they get back to the hotel, and who walks out? It's Merv. Well, of course, he's the hotel manager, but actually he's the real villain of the movie.
Yes, this is the big plot twist.
That wasn't really needed, but for whatever reason, Merv is like the boss of Maurice and Skunk.
Yeah.
But it's still Skunk who wrote the book. I was like, wait,
Yes.
is it Merv who now he's like, yes, I'm a great writer and you got to help me. But we'll eventually
Skunk wants to be a good writer, so he's doing that for whatever. But Merv wants to have this big grand hotel, so he's going to use
they go into
money
Merv's
from publishing this book.
apartment of connected to the hotel, which is all like kind of fluffy and girly furniture,
Weird, yeah.
which I don't even know if they really call attention to it. So it's just a weird like location
Weird
gag.
decor.
But there's painting a design document or something of the Merv Hotel.
She opens up a window, but that's what's like there. It's not
Well, it's like behind
actual,
some curtains or
yes,
something.
Yes, it's behind curtains. So it's not actually outside. It's just this weird
Because the hotel they're at is called the Merc Hotel, so he wants his own hotel. Again, this is maybe spelled out a little more clearly, but we weren't paying the closest attention. So our understanding is that Merv will publish, or he's putting up money or something for Skunk's book, and then we'll use the money that he makes from the book being so good to buy his own hotel.
Well, they're having the father write the book in his handwriting so that they can sell it to the publisher as like a last book. Like they're killing. I think like that was the thing.
I really missed a lot. Then.
They're making the father write it in his handwriting so they can convince the publisher that this is.
As so many authors do, is they write their books by hand, and editors definitely accept that because they love probably writing handwritten text.
That's what he said.
All right, well, I guess Merv is a bad guy. So then they're in that apartment that nobody seems to know exists, and he's writing the book. Meanwhile, the ZoomCon is still going on.
Yeah,
it's an all-weekend rager, just like Anime Detour.
Do they even know he's gone? I don't even know they realize the guy's gone.
Well, I mean, he's the guest of honor. He probably doesn't need to be out there the entire time.
That is true.
So then the fanboys, they arrive back because they've hitchhiked with the pizza guy, who also gives them free pizza.
He drives on the wrong side of the car.
And somehow has a vehicle that has the steering wheel on the right side of the car.
And there's like a massive pizza on the top. I mean, it's big. It's
for like Earl's
thing.
Pizza Shack or something.
It's pretty big.
It's just a weird thing that he had a car from another country for whatever reason.
They filmed
as
in
his
another
pizza
country.
car. Nah, they probably filmed in Utah. They always film in Utah. But then he drops him off and he's like, hey, get this book signed for me. Tell him I'm a pizza artist or whatever. And they're like, all right, thanks. So then they're at the convention, but it's like daytime now. So it's like an extended period of time. This pizza guy picked them up at night and then drove them overnight to get them to this hotel. And I don't even know if he paid them. But I guess it's so he can get that autograph. But then he also gave him free pizza or something. I don't know. It seems like a great deal for those three guys. But they know something's amiss. They go to the presidential suite. They're not there. And then, again, I didn't fully understand this leap in logic of they're like, oh, well, that page was from the book Zoom Time, Boom Time or something like that.
Yes.
What happened in that? Oh, we gather up a bunch of people. I don't know. For whatever reason, they go tell all of the other fanboys at the convention.
Well, Merv is also still up there, kind of like, and nobody knows Merv is bad.
No, but they still throw slime and stuff at him for some reason.
Yes.
Which, like, if that was his origin story, that would have been enough. Just
he's pissed, yeah.
He keeps getting shit thrown at him all the time. But Wheeze tells all of the attendants, hey, I don't even remember his fucking name, but Dad has been kidnapped. Writer Dad's been kidnapped. We have to save him. So then they basically take over the entire town outside of the hotel. They're marching around. They got like goofy costumes and stuff on, and they're just compiling all of this slime. There's people on like the rooftops. They're making water balloons. They got slime guns. It's all like, what the fuck is going on? And it's extra what the fuck is going on because they're chanting floss the entire time they're doing this. Which again, Zoomers, they love the flossing. So this movie is predictive.
Yes.
And I guess this was Melissa's intention because she's able to... Well, first she has a scene, I think, where her dad says, You want to know who was my inspiration for Trip Zoom?
You.
It was you. When you were born, Trip Zoom was born.
All these,
like, fuck off, man.
All these quotes you're saying, I took them from you. You said that when you were 8.
So it's all good now because even though he definitely has been arguably a reticent father, at least I was the inspiration for the character that he spends all his time on. Whatever. But I guess this was all according to her plan because she hangs on like bubble wrap for some reason.
Z. It's like the letter Z. She holds out the window.
Paints a Z on it, and then it's a signal to be like, fucking shoot shit in this window.
And they do. Like, they get launchers, they get
it's
squirters.
Like balloons, squirters, all this slime and shit's going in there. And Merv looks out the window and gets hit. And it's like
he
filmed.
He stands there.
It's filmed fairly cinematically as if this was, like a hail of bullets coming out. He's like, get the fuck down. And
but he takes it for like a minute. He stands there and he gets hit by balloons, by all the toothpaste and whatever you want to call it.
That's like a minute. That's what I watched this movie for, right?
And you see like balloons coming through the windows. The whole apartment thing's getting trashed. His painting of like the hotel's getting ruined. Everything's just ruined.
Yeah.
Pretty wild scene.
So then he gets, and I think there was a scene where he's like yelling at the goons ahead of time. So I thought that was supposed to be like the turn where we're supposed to feel bad for the goons and only hate Merv. But then they're taking the mom and dad, dad and Melissa out. Melissa. That's a bit of an inside joke. They're taking them out, and Melissa somehow gets away. And I'm just gonna laugh at that. No. Melissa gets away, and then she is getting chased by Maurice and Skunk, and puts like some Home Alone. she's greasing up with slime, of course, the steps behind her, and then Merv. That's Home Alone. Well, no, that's Marv, but Merv is the other guy. Maurice and Skunk then slip, and then I think they come up and like floss them and tie them up or whatever. So they're still bad at this point. Then Merv is somehow with the dad, and they're trying to get into the convertible so that he can ride off. And then the mob finds them and slimes him some more. It's just so much slime.
A lot of
I think there was actually a different scene where they were running away, and they're like in a underwell, or they're like in some steps going down to like a basement, and then they get like launched down, and I think a kid says eat grape juice, and we're like, nothing you're putting out looks like grape juice. It's all slime and nasty.
Like, it's referred to as different stuff. I would be interested to see what the actual substance they like. I'd be curious. Like, there's an actual book. Like, this book came out it was going to come out on September 30th of 2008, which was before this movie was released, but it got pushed back till February of 2009.
So that would have been when this movie came out.
Yeah, so the movie came out February 16, 2009, so it came out a week before the movie.
So it was a Trip Zoom book, or was it called Dadnapped?
It's called Dadnapped Junior Novel.
Oh, well, that's nothing.
It's based on the movie.
That's fucked up.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. You should be ashamed of yourself, Disney Channel. My notes say, more chaos, and is it done yet? Nope, it's not done yet.
We don't know.
Because Maurice and Skunk, they're kind of ahead of the crowd that's chasing Merv. They see him coming. They have their face turned where they're all covered in floss, but they untwist themselves from the floss to create a tripwire.
See, and I was curious if they just were like, we can't keep being stuck like this, and if they're just trying to just untie to just get free, or if they actually, I can't remember.
I think it was purposeful. I don't think they're accidentally in love or accidental heroes or whatever. So then they trip Merv, and he lands in this gigantic, nasty, slimy pile of garbage.
So this is a callback to the very beginning of the movie, where Trip Zoom uses like a tripwire to trip the bad guy.
In that kid's book report. Yes. Not the slimy garbage stuff, just the trip wire.
To trip him with the tripwire.
Just the tripwire, not the most disgusting part of this movie. Was pretty,
he
lands face first in it.
Like there's garbage bags, but then there's like a pile of just like nasty vegetables.
Congealed pea soup. Yeah, it's a bunch of like carrots and shit.
It was very strange.
Awful.
It was very strange.
And then finally the cops show up and they arrest
the real cops.
Not real cops.
Not the
two other people impersonating cops. No. So they arrest Merv, and then we get the kind of final wrap up of the movie. Back at the convention, all the con goers are
floss.
Apparently, they're getting signed copies of the book, so that's
for free.
Cool.
Yes. His next book, not even out yet.
A dad shouts out Wheeze, Sheldon, and Andre. They get to come up to the stage, and Wheeze gives some weird speech where he says, "Hey, my parents were always like, why are you reading that garbage? And now I just want to say reading rocks." And I'm like, what the fuck? Shut the fuck up. we cut back to Melissa in the audience. She has one more final hallucination where she's talking to Trip Zoom. And he's like, hey, I'm within you. I was always you or whatever. And then she gets called up on stage by her dad to be like, she's the real Zoomer. She's the biggest Zoomer of them all.
Yes.
And it's really nice that in the audience, Maurice and Skunk are there. The cops allowed them to come in to see this final scene for a bit. And
they are big fanboys.
Skunk is still committed trying to write his book. And Maurice is a very supportive brother, even though I assume they're like brothers from like an orphanage or something.
Yeah.
Some kind of origin story like that. And then finally, I think they're going to leave the convention a day early so that the dad and Melissa can get their delayed camping trip. Yes. And before they go, though, Wheeze comes up and gives Melissa his phone number and asks her out on a date awkwardly. And I'm like, doesn't he live in this town? Because we see his like bedroom at times, and it seems like he lives in wherever this convention town is. So I don't really know how that's going to work out. He does have a van. But the van is like
by the river.
It's in like the middle of the desert, though, right now.
Yeah.
So, you know what? Don't worry, we'll never get a Dadnapped 2.
Hallelujah.
And then we just cut to, I almost said cut to commercials. No, we cut to the end of the movie where we don't get bloopers, but we get the collection of the money shots. And in some ways, they're money shots in more way than one. Of just people getting slimed on the face all the time. Basically, every single Merv scene except the one where he lands face down in the garbage. Yeah. Probably because they're like, that's too gross. We don't want to.
There was one.
We can't make people see it twice.
Pooped on by a bird. I don't remember that in the movie.
Yeah, we don't remember that in the movie. Maybe it was just real, and that's why they decided to slime him the rest of the time. But that was Dadnapped. A movie that you definitely have never heard of. And you're probably fine to have not heard of it.
It's a fun movie, though. I'm gonna say that. You know, like it's not a good movie. Like it had 4.6 million people that watched it, so it had a pretty good success.
That's nothing.
I think that's solid, and it's like got good fan responses, but it got a 39% critic rating. I don't know who's critically rated.
That's probably tied to Rotten Tomatoes, which is probably interesting that they were able to pull up that many reviews for it. But and I don't know.
David Nussair, who also called Hatching Pete, they tied these two together. He said they were typically underwhelming Disney Channel fare.
Well, look forward to Hatching Pete on the next episode of A Whole New Pod. Well, the real question is, Jacob, is it better or worse than The Color of Friendship?
Ooh. There's a lot of extras in this one.
I mean, I can't make the decision for you.
I have to do a full rewrite. This one's fresh from I'm talking this one up. I thought it was a fun movie. It's not a good movie. Like
I'm just saying, Color of Friendship is one of your worst DCOMs of all time, apparently, because Jacob is very fragile.
It's not magic. It's not magical. It's not a magical.
He doesn't like racism being talked about.
Like I would say, as a whole, that's a better movie. But this one I had more fun with.
Okay. I didn't. This movie sucks.
Why?
Probably.
It's just too hectic.
It's just a mess. The premise is...
Floss.
There's not enough plot in this movie for like even 85 minutes. They go to the convention. Oh, he gets kidnapped. And then he doesn't really get kidnapped. Yes. But then he actually gets kidnapped. But then they kind of just drive around for a while. And then we throw in a twist with Merv that doesn't even really feel like it's paid off well.
I think the concept of the movie I think it's a fun concept, the double kidnapping kind of thing.
Yeah, no, there are bits here that could be used in a more fun and better movie.
Yes.
But we watched Dadnapped, and we didn't watch the movie that I could write maybe a little bit better in my head. Because I definitely am a writer, too.
If you were a big DCOMer, like around 2009...
you know me. That's what they call me, big DCOMer. I'm always commenting on these DCOMs.
DCOMer 1255.
Here's my money shot for the bloops reel. I'm the DCOMer.
But I would say if you were a fan of DCOMs around when this came out, so this is kind of catching it at the end of where I stopped watching them. But
as like a sophomore in high school.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Not to date us too much.
Hater.
I mean, you can date us all you want, though, right? We're the DCOMers.
Yes. But if you were watching DCOMs around this time, as a kid, I think you would have enjoyed seeing all these different faces that you recognized from other DCOM movies.
And that's what Disney went on to do best is, I know what that is. I clapped because I know.
This is just a sign of things to come in all their Star Wars.
It's all about the
stuff.
fan service. That's all it's about.
Yeah.
I'd say this is probably one of the worst movies we've watched recently. Not as bad as Twitches 2. I think that's definitely at the forefront of my mind as the worst movie we've watched recently.
No, and I never said this was a good movie. I said it was a fun movie.
You know, it's antics. It's like Bad Grandpa.
It's like
I love to hate it.
Yeah,
I haven't watched Bad Grandpa.
No, like this is, I don't know. It was an enjoyable watch. Just for the goofy stuff that happened.
You know what? I would watch this movie while mostly trying to figure out today's extremely hard Wordle again. You know, it's perfect for trying to solve a Wordle with something in the background. And I guess we can get into, if we have new listeners, this is our only recurring segment called Never Remember, which is where we discuss whether main characters or certain characters from this movie could have stopped 9/11.
Before we do this really quick, I want to tell you, so you were really looking forward to the movie Zombies and Zombies 2.
Not anymore.
The director who did this movie did those two. He also did the Cheetah Girls One World and Camp Rock 2.
All right, well, we haven't got Camp Rock 2 yet, but Cheetah Girls One World
Paul Hoen
was my favorite Cheetah Girls movie, and I thought as a musical it was pretty well put together.
He did a bunch, actually. He did Jump In, Read It and Weep, Eddie's $1 Million Cook-Off, You Wish, True Confessions, Lucky the Irish.
Those are some banger DCOMs. Oh, wow. So he's the new Dwayne Dunham, even though actually I think a lot of Dwayne Dunham movies were kind of crap. But
so maybe is this his worst of the bunch, maybe?
Probably out of all the ones. This actually has some aspects similar to Read It and Weep, but both being questionable. That like the main character is possibly just insane.
Yeah,
I think Read It and Weep is better though.
Yeah.
All right, but yes, I think we will say could Wheeze, Sheldon, and Andre have stopped 9/11, or could Trip Zoom have stopped 9/11?
I think you would have flossed him.
And then they would have been like, hey, we snuck box cutters onto this plane. What the fuck are you doing, you chump ass bitch?
That's true. That is true. And so he would have tried, but he would have failed.
Yeah, the disconnect of what we see at that beginning recreation of Trip Zoom with what actually seems to be a lot of his books, he'd fuck up, man.
Would you have enjoyed if the movie, like, for like certain scenes would have gone into like a cinematic aspect like that more, like, you know, with Emily Osment's character and like the goofy people like Mr. Mosby's character like turned into like a visual like kind of villain, like a cinematic villain. Does that make sense?
No.
What I'm trying to say?
No, I definitely get what you're going for of just the imagination or
they
whatever.
Enter into the world.
Magical realism.
Yeah.
But no, I just liked being shown what a Trip Zoom novel was like. But if it was the characters that exist in this movie, most of whom I don't like at all, if they were like supplanted onto some of these characters, no. If you want that, watch a better movie called The Jet Jackson movie.
Yeah, it's basically kind of the same.
They're all the same. All these movies suck. And if you're a new listener,
versus the World,
definitely look. Why are you bringing Scott Pilgrim versus the World?
Like, I mean, that's kind of the same thing I was describing, right?
No, not really.
Like the
because that all happens,
but it like enters into like a comic, you know, like a.
Oh well, I didn't think that's what you were describing. I thought it was
that kind of aspect of it.
Well, no, if that was also in this movie, I definitely would have hated it because it would have looked like trash because it's a Disney Channel original movie.
That was Paul Hoen's Dadnapped.
That was as it's referred to in the great pantheon of Paul Hoen's filmography. And if you're a new listener or just a returning listener and want us to give us some feedback on whatever, you can write us at awholenewpod@gmail.com. Find us on Apple Podcasts, rate us, review us on there. Follow us on Spotify, Stitcher, Google, whatever.
Yes.
YouTube.com/awholenewpod, where you can like, comment, and subscribe to our videos on there. And actually, I think I came across... Of course, we haven't talked about it for a while, but our long-running, most viewed video has been the 13th year for whatever reason. Mostly probably because people think we uploaded the full movie, which we did not. But I think we've actually turned the corner where that one has well, you can't see dislikes and likes anymore, and people can't dislike stuff. So maybe that's related to it. I can see what the ratio is, and we're above 50%.
Our likes have
We're above 50% on 13th year now, which is interesting.
It used to always be like really bad.
Well, not our worst. Our worst still is up and away. For whatever reason, people either don't like our episode about that or are very mad, particularly about that movie not being uploaded in full.
When did YouTube get rid of the dislikes? In the last year?
Yeah, maybe like 6 months ago or something at this point. I'm not a big fan of that decision. We always had the option of hiding our likes and dislikes or turning them off or whatever, but I want to let the people speak.
Yes, for reference, the 13th year has 87 likes, and it has 40,000 views.
Yeah, so definitely like it some more.
Yes, like.
Yeah, you can hear my brief bit of audio, but Jacob is watching the video to give it one more view. With that, I think we'll pause out here.
Floss.
Your dentist wants you to do it, and I agree. Floss.
I'm bored as well.
Come on, kids, it can't be that bad. There must be something you want to do.
I want to play number wang.
Me too.
But kids, you know we can't do that. Number wang is for the television only. Playing number wang at home would infringe copyright law, thus depriving people of legitimate royalties and jeopardising future game show production, and could result in a prison sentence of up to 20 years under the Game Show Criminality Act of 1998.
How about playing cucumber wang?
No, Timmy, because that would be shit.
Hey kids and mum and dad, I'm the actual real host of Number Wang, and I've got a question for you. Do you sometimes wish you could play Number Wang at home but without the risk of going to jail? Well, now with the release of the official Number Wang Play Number Wang at Home Number Wang board game, you can play Number Wang at home on a board. Look!
Our days of misery and boredom are over. It's number wang in a box.
Hooray, Wang! I might even stop my affair.
It's got everything you'll find in the program you love. It's got a board. It's got numbers. It's got 2 400-sided dice. It's got special hosting accessories so you can be just like the real thing. And there are all 37 volumes of the rules. So you can say, that's Number Wang, with confidence.
Free. Is that number wang?
Well, let's see. No!
And it even comes with a real rotating board.
Let's rotate the board.
What's on the other side, kids?
It's an apple.
The actual official Number Wang board game for everyone from ages 8 to 88.
Sorry, Nan.
And at a price of just £238.91, now every day can be a Number Wang day.
That's number wang.